Object-oriented programming. As the name suggests, object-oriented programming or OOPs refer to languages that uses objects in programming. Object-oriented programming aims to implement real-world entities like inheritance, hiding, polymorphism. इनके बारे में हम आगे पढ़ेंगे इस वीडियो में. Etc. in programming. The main aim of OOP is to bind together the data and the functions that operate on them so that no other part of the code can access this data except that function. Object-oriented programming यानी कि OOPs is one of the most popular methodologies in software development. It offers a powerful model for creating computer programs. It speeds the program development process, improves maintenance, and enhances reusability of programs. OOPs concept: polymorphism, inheritance, encapsulation, abstraction, class, object, method, message passing. इनके बारे में पढ़ेंगे अब हम. Polymorphism. Polymorphism refers to the ability of OOPs programming languages to differentiate between entities with the same name efficiently. This is done by Java with the help of the signature and declaration of these entities. यानी कि हम सेम नेम के मेथड बना सकते हैं एक ही प्रोग्राम में. जैसे कि हमने कैलकुलेशन नाम का मेथड बनाया, एक उसमें एडिशन करा है, फिर हम दूसरा कैलकुलेशन नाम का बना सकते हैं, उसमें मल्टीप्लिकेशन या सब्सट्रैक्शन कर सकते हैं. ऐसे कई तरीके के कैलकुलेशन नाम के मेथड बना सकते हैं हम एक ही प्रोग्राम में पॉलीमॉर्फिज्म की वजह से, जो कि हम जावा में करते हैं. Polymorphism in Java are mainly of two types: overloading in Java and overriding in Java. Inheritance. Inheritance is an important pillar of OOPs. It is the mechanism in Java by which one class is allowed to inherit the features, fields and methods of another class. यानी कि हमने अगर दो क्लास बनाई है, फर्स्ट क्लास में हमने दी है, जैसे हमने फर्स्ट क्लास में कार के माइलेज के बारे में लिखा है, और सेकंड क्लास में उसके फीचर्स, अदर फीचर्स के बारे में लिखा है, यानी कि कुछ जैसे साइज वेट ऐसा करके कुछ लिखा है. और हमने तीसरी क्लास में उन दोनों क्लास के जो भी प्रॉपर्टीज़ हैं वो हमने तीसरी क्लास में इनहेरिट कर सकते हैं, यानी कि तीसरी क्लास में उसे प्रिंट करवा सकते हैं. अगर तीसरी क्लास में अगर हमें उन दोनों की चीज़ की ज़रूरत है, जैसे कि कार के साइज़ वेट की ज़रूरत है, तो हमें तीसरी क्लास में उसे लिखने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, हम डायरेक्ट उसे इनहेरिट कर सकते हैं. यानी कि एक क्लास दूसरे क्लास की जो मेथड्स हैं या प्रॉपर्टीज़ है उसे अपनी क्लास में यूज़ कर सकती है, यानी कि हमारा कोड रीयूज़ हो सकता है, उसमें हमें दोबारा लिखने की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ेगी, इनहेरिट कर सकते हैं हम क्लास की प्रॉपर्टीज़ दूसरी क्लास में. इम्पोर्टेंट टर्मिनोलॉजी. सुपर क्लास. द क्लास whose features are inherited is known as super class or a base class or a parent class. यानी कि जिसके फीचर्स या जिस क्लास को हम इनहेरिट करेंगे वो पेरेंट क्लास होगी. सब क्लास. द क्लास दैट इनहेरिट्स द अदर क्लास इज नोन एज सब क्लास. यानी कि जो इनहेरिट करेगी, यानी कि सब क्लास सुपर क्लास की प्रॉपर्टीज़ को इनहेरिट करेगी, इसलिए सुपर क्लास पेरेंट क्लास कहलाती है हमारी, और सब क्लास चाइल्ड क्लास कहलाती है. or a derived class, extended class or child class. The subclass can add its own fields and methods in addition to the superclass fields and methods. वो अपने अलग से मेथड भी उसमें ऐड कर सकती है. Reusability. Inheritance supports the concept of reusability. That is, when we want to create a new class and there is already a class that includes some of the code that we want, we can derive our new class from the existing class. By doing this, we are reusing the fields and methods of the existing class. The keyword used for inheritance is extends. Extends कीवर्ड का यूज़ करते हैं हम इनहेरिटेंस में किसी क्लास की प्रॉपर्टीज़ को इनहेरिट करने के लिए. Encapsulation. Encapsulation is defined as the wrapping up of data under a single unit. It is the mechanism that binds together code and the data it manipulates. Another way to think about encapsulation is it is a protective shield that prevents the data from being accessed by the code outside this shield. Technically, in encapsulation, the variables or data of a class is hidden from any other class and can be accessed only through any member function of own class in which they are declared. As in encapsulation, the data in a class is hidden from other classes, so it is also known as data hiding. Encapsulation can be achieved by declaring all the variables in the class as private and writing public methods. ये एक्सेस स्पेसिफायर होते हैं हमारे प्राइवेट, पब्लिक और प्रोटेक्टेड मेथड इन द क्लास टू सेट एंड गेट द वैल्यूज ऑफ वेरिएबल्स. अगर हम कोई भी मेथड पब्लिक करते हैं तो उसे तो कोई भी एक्सेस कर सकता है, लेकिन अगर हमने प्राइवेट और प्रोटेक्टेड कर दिया तो उसे उसे हर कोई एक्सेस नहीं कर सकता, हर क्लास में उसे एक्सेस नहीं कर सकते हम. ये प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए होता है बेसिकली. Abstraction. Data abstraction is the property by virtue of which only the essential details are displayed to the user. The trivial or the non-essential units are not displayed to the user. Example, a car is viewed as a car rather than its individual components. Data abstraction may also be defined as the process of identifying only the required characteristics of an object, ignoring the irrelevant details. The properties and behaviors of an object differentiate it from other objects of similar type and also help in classifying grouping the objects. Consider a real-life example of a man driving a car. The man only knows that pressing the accelerators will increase the speed of car or applying brakes will stop the car, but he does not know about how on pressing the accelerator the speed is actually increasing. He does not know अबाउट द इनर मैकेनिज्म ऑफ द कार. यानी कि जैसे कोई एक बंदा कार चला रहा है तो उस बंदे को ये पता है कि अगर मैं एक्सीलेटर दबाऊंगा तो रेस बढ़ेगी और अगर मैं ब्रेक दबाऊंगा तो गाड़ी रुक जाएगी, लेकिन उसे ये नहीं पता कि गाड़ी के अंदर ऐसा क्या हो रहा है जो मेरे एक्सीलेटर दबाने से गाड़ी तेज़ हो जा रही है और ब्रेक दबाने से रुक जा रही है. He does not know about the inner mechanism of the car or the implementation of accelerator, brakes, etc. in the car. This is what abstraction is. In Java, abstraction is achieved by interfaces and abstract classes. We can achieve 100% abstraction using interfaces. यानी कि हमें ऊपर की बातें पता होती हैं, लेकिन जो अंदर काम चल रहा होता है, जो हमने कोड लिखा होता है, वो पता नहीं होता. abstraction में ये होता, यानी कि जो हम चाहते हैं कि यूज़र को सिर्फ ये डिस्प्ले हो तो उसमें सिर्फ वही डिस्प्ले होता है, उससे एक्स्ट्रा जो हमने कोड लिखा होता है वो उसे डिस्प्ले नहीं होता. Objects. An object is one of the first thing that an infant learns to recognize, just as it learns to recognize its parents. It is a basic unit of object-oriented programming, यानी कि OOPS, and represent the real-life entities. A typical Java program creates many objects, which, as you know, interact by invoking methods. As the infant grows older, it learns to recognize an object such as a clock, book, or a tape recorder as not only having a definite distinct boundary but also as one that has a unique identity quite apart from the other objects surrounding it. हम जावा प्रोग्रामिंग में ऑब्जेक्ट्स के थ्रू ही मेथड को कॉल करते हैं. मेथड को कॉल करने के लिए हमें ऑब्जेक्ट्स बनाने पड़ते हैं. The dictionary defines an object as a material thing that is capable of being presented to the senses. For more purpose, a simple definition of an object would be a tangible entity that may exhibit some well-defined behavior. Consider the following example of a tennis ball. A tennis ball is a tangible, visible entity which has a visible boundary. A tennis ball has a specific purpose. You can direct a specific action towards a tennis ball, hit it with a racket, and send it flying. But let us not limit our definition of an object to merely something that can be seen, held, and touched, such as a tennis ball, an automobile, or an armchair. For the purpose of software development, the idea of the object needs refinement. For example, consider the Acme Nut and Bolt Company. An organization, you will argue does not have a visible boundary, unlike a tennis ball or a tape recorder. True, but while it does not possess a physical boundary, it does have a conceptual boundary. like all organization, it has a specific purpose and one can direct a specific action towards it. Just ask the customers and shareholders. Thus, by our definition, the Acme Nut and Bolt Company is an object. State, behavior and identity of an object. According to Grady Booch, this is a person, an object has the following characteristics. It has a state, it may displays a behavior, it has a unique identity. For example, you can take a car as an object. It can have states such as moving and stationary. It can accelerate, decelerate, turn right, turn left, which is its behavior. The car also has an identity such as a unique registration number. The following figures depict the characteristics of a car. The state of an object is indicated by a set of attributes and the value of these attributes. Thus, a chemical can be characterized by temperature, pressure, or density and the values of each of these. The behavior refers to the change of these attributes over a period of time. Objects do not exist in isolation. They interact with other objects and react to these interactions. These interactions take place through messages. Grady Booch has defined behavior as follows. Behavior is how an object acts as and reacts in terms of its state, changes and message passing. That explains the first part of the definition of an object. An object has state, exhibits some well-defined behavior. Now let us examine the next part of the definition and has a unique identity. Each object has a unique identity, just as each person has a unique identity. The identity of an object distinguishes it from all other objects. In the case of the pay phone described here, its identity will be its serial number, assigned by the manufacturer. Two objects may have the same behavior, may or may not have the same state, and will never have the same identity. The identity of an object never changes in its lifetime. Thus, two tennis balls may have the same color, be made of the same material, and have the same weight and the same circumferences and display the same behavior, but will still have distinct identities. Say one ball has the factory serial number A189735 and others S660794. Classes. Look at the world around you. It is full of objects of different shapes, sizes and colors. Objects, stationary and mobile objects that exist in this world for different purposes. If we were to deal with this vast number and variety of objects simultaneously, we will be at a loss. We can only do what the geologists do. The earth is inhabited by millions of animals. A geologist cannot be any meaningful study of these objects without organizing this vast variety of animals found in the world in a logical manner. Thus, zoologists have classified animals into their kingdom, genus, family, and species. A class is a user-defined blueprint or prototype from which objects are created. It represents the set of properties or methods that are common to all objects of one type. Similarly, the millions of objects that we see in this world can be classified on the basis of common attributes that they possess. Let us take a simple example from the animal world. The peacock, the sparrow and the kingfisher are all called birds. Why? All of them share some common characteristics. All three have properties that are common to the family of birds. For example, all of them lay eggs and hatch their young. All of them are covered with feathers, have hollow bone structures and have the ability to fly. Thus we can say that the peacock and the sparrow and the kingfisher all share structural and behavioral similarities and belong to the class called birds. We started off by saying that the world around us is full of objects. Making a conscious attempt to identify the objects around you and classifying them into classes can be fun, and this is important from the point of view of software development. It can be equally existing to identify objects and classes in a given situation or situations. When we watch a play in the theater, we recognize the fact that there is a group of actors on the stage and each actor is playing his or her own part. Similarly, in a given situation, we can identify a group of objects that play a part. The one difference here is that objects include animate, living as well as inanimate objects. Thus, on the stage, you can identify Professor Henry Higgins, Cole Pickering, and Eliza Doolittle, and the armchair, the fireplace, or the portrait on the wall. Messages and methods. A message is transmitted by one object to another. A message is a request for an action to be taken and is accompanied by additional information needed to carry out the request. A method is a collection of statements that perform some specific task and return result to the caller. A method can perform some specific task without returning anything. Methods allows us to reuse the code without retyping the code. Benefits of object orientation. Why do we need opt for the object-oriented approach? Some of the principal reasons are realistic modeling, reusability, and resilience to change. Realistic modeling. Since we live in a world of objects, it logically follows that the object-oriented approach models the real world more accurately. Reusability. In the software industry, as in other industry, a large portion of time and energy is spent in recreating the proverbial wheel. In the object-oriented approach, you build a classes which can be used by several applications. Consider the following analogy. Curlcare is a brand of shampoo sold in the European market. In spite of high investment in advertising, the management at Curlcare felt that the shampoo did not really have an identity of its own in a market that is infested with hundreds of brands of shampoo. Therefore, the marketing division came up with a strategy to project a new image for Curlcare. Curlcare was originally available in plastic bottles just like all other brands of shampoo. The idea conceived by the marketing division was to give the shampoo a new look by packaging it in a soft squeeze tube. The design department of the manufacturing division designed the tube. This design was created on a computer and three-dimensional 3D views of the tube were made. The packaging division used these images to check how the tubes would appear on shelves in the shops and how many would fit on a standard size shelf. The advertising division used these images to figure out the new advertising strategy and how the tube would look in the advertisement layout. The finance division needed to work out the cost of manufacturing. All these divisions can be viewed as several teams working on one project. All the teams use the same information about the new tube to arrive at the complete solution for Curlcare. The scenario at Curlcare depicts the concept of reusability that is supported by the object-oriented approach. In object-oriented terms, the tube is a class that can be used by all the users who need it. In the object-oriented approach, classes are designed such that they can be reused in several systems. Now, if we extend the above scenario to include a situation where Curlcare is diversifying into new products, say toothpaste, the work done on the design of the tube of shampoo can be used for the tube of toothpaste. Not only are the attributes of the tube such as length or radius being reused, but also the methods. For example, the method used by the finance department to compute the manufacturing cost of the tube of shampoo can be used for this new product. The benefit of reusability translates to saving in time and effort, which in turn result in cost benefits. Resilience to change. Through the object-oriented approach, systems can be allowed to evolve. When a change is suggested, the old system need not be completely abandoned and rebuilt from scratch. Consider the example of Joy Toys, a company that manufactures toys for children in the age group of 1 to 12. The payroll system of this company has been developed using object-oriented techniques. The company has several employees, some of whom work in the design department. These designers develop new toys every season. For the past couple of years, the company has had no cause to complain about the payroll system. However, new developments in the company have rendered the old payroll system inadequate. In order to keep up with competition, the company realized the need to employ more designers. Design work is done only in certain months of the year. Therefore, the company has now employed freelance product designers who work in the capacity of temporary employees. However, new developments in the company have rendered the old payroll system inadequate. In order to keep up the competition, the company realized the need to employ more designers. Design work is done only in certain months of the year. Therefore, the company has now employed freelance product designers who work in the capacity of temporary employees. The original payroll system was defined for employees of two kinds: confirmed employees and trainees. Though there are many attributes that are common between confirmed employees and trainees, like name and address, there are some attributes that are different. For example, a confirmed employee receives basic pay while a trainee receives a stipend. The company now wants the system to be modified to accommodate freelancers as well. In the object-oriented system, this change does not require the entire payroll system to be revamped. A new class of freelancers need to be introduced to take care of all activities related to freelancers. The rest of the system remains unchanged. Resilience to change results in the benefit of easier maintenance. For the same reason, even during construction, part of the system under development can be refined without any major change in the other parts. Existence as different forms. By using the object-oriented approach, objects can be made to respond differently to the same message. The response is decided based on the information or parameters provided with the message. Information is passed as parameters in a function. You will learn about functions in subsequent videos or chapters. If a car collides against an object, the behavior of the car after the collision will depend on the speed of the car and nature of the object that hit the car. For example, if the car collides with another car at high speed, both the cars will be smashed and the driver might get injured. On the other hand, if a car collides with a street light at a low speed, the impact would be less. This ability to react differently based on the information associated with the message is known as polymorphism.